Welcome, everyone, to International Podcast Day 2018. Well, if you just watched the last session, we were over in Ireland with Amanda and Joanne, a really great session. Now we're moving over to the United Kingdom with Ian. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsors for International Podcast Day. First is Blueberry, a full-service podcasting company providing podcast hosting, statistics, and advertising opportunities. Find more at blueberry.com. Repurpose.io automatically converts your audio podcast into engaging videos and upload them to YouTube and Facebook. Find more at repurpose.io/IPD. And Podcast Success Academy teaches podcasters the skills that no one told them and how they need them to succeed. Find more at podcastsuccessacademy.com. Well, Ian, welcome to International Podcast Day 2018.
Well, thank you so much. How are you feeling? Are you tired?
Well, actually, I just finished my nap and Dave just went to take his. So right at the moment, we're piling up on coffee and doing very well. But certainly the most important thing is the community of International Podcast Day and bringing all this wonderful, wonderful content to them.
For sure. I see you sporting the brand as well.
I'm telling you, you're the man.
Yeah. You fill those guns out better than me, though.
Well, not bad for a 63-year-old, huh?
Hey, look at you, man. Looking good.
So, Ian, I'm really looking forward to what you're bringing to the table for everybody. I will turn it over to you, and if you need anything, just yell.
Good stuff. Thank you so much. Okay. We good to go, yeah?
Yes.
Good man. Okay, well, actually, you're full of coffee. I'm going to be English. I've got my tea here in a Buzz Lightyear cup for some reason. I was trying to think of something from the United Kingdom that I could put in the background, but I am some patriot. I have literally nothing with a Union Jack on. So anyway, we are here in the UK, and happy International Podcast Day, and kudos to the team. It's amazing you brought us together again, all these amazing podcasters. I've enjoyed watching some of the guests already, and I'm excited to be here today with you in the UK. So I'd like this session to be interactive, okay? So if you're in the chat room, I've got a monitor here, and I want you to ask me any questions along the way. If you are, do me a favor. Hi, Leanne. Do me a favor. If you put Ian in caps, and then it'll catch my eye, okay? And I can see you. So I host the business podcast Industry Angel, and this week I recorded my 104th episode, and I can't believe that. It's flew. It's really flew. I interview a diverse bunch of guests, and that makes me laugh because I've had some real diverse people on. Gamblers, so people who play cards for a living, adventurers, football club chairman, or soccer if you're in the States, and we've always got something to learn from them. So no matter what these people do, there's always a lesson, and we can always take that back to business, because that's essentially what the podcast is about. So I'm located in the northeast of England. I live by the coast in a beautiful town called South Shields, and my location is important, as is yours. And I want to talk today about something I call global platform, local focus. But before I do that, I'll wind it back and I'll give you a little bit of context about where my podcasting journey started. And it was in the Christmas of 2015. It was one of those days where I wanted to plan for something for the coming year ahead. I know a few friends of mine like lists, and if you're on a list too, you might want to plan things and put some goals down. And actually, my plan was just to do more. That's all I wanted to do, just as simple as that. I felt like I hadn't done enough, or I wasn't doing enough. You maybe feel that in your life sometimes, where you just think, I want more out of life. Life's too short. So I thought, what could I do? I'd just come off the back of a couple of really messy sales positions. I was a director for a couple of tech companies. So I was working in sales, working all over the world. I wasn't treated very kindly. I really fell out in love with it, and I burnt out pretty heavy. I was traveling around the world, long hours. And I remember one day I almost collapsed at work. A pretty crazy story, but I felt really dizzy. My vision just went as if it was all really tunnel vision. And I just got scared. So I grabbed my keys, bolted out the office door, got into the car, which I shouldn't have done really, and drove really fast down the motorway. And I got to the end of the motorway and thought, do I turn left to hospital or do I turn right to go home? And I felt so anxious. I didn't want to see anybody. And I drove home. I can't even remember getting there, opened the door, straight into the back garden. It was a sunny day and I collapsed. I collapsed on the trampoline, my kid's trampoline. And I was out for about 16 hours. My brain, my body just shut down. And I was just pushing too hard. So I'd really fell out of love with the corporate world. And I just wanted to do something else. And I wouldn't have changed those experiences actually, as they taught me so much what was going on with my career. And it's taught me essentially is just to have fun, just enjoy the experience. I wanted to build a team around me that would enjoy getting up in the morning. As humans, that's all we want to do. Yeah. Hi, Nora, unusual. Hi there. That's all we want as humans, isn't it? We just want to be happy. We do want the Sunday night blues. For me, sometimes you might have a takeaway on a Sunday night, and you're sitting with a glass of wine and a takeaway, and it's just awful thinking about I've got to go to work in the morning. So I didn't want that. There's no way I wanted that. So I fired myself from the corporate world, and I launched my own company. It's not a Scottish accent. I'm from the Northeast. So I'm just reading the chat roll. So I fired myself from corporate world. Keep it coming. I'm more than happy to answer questions. And I started a company called Far North, which is a sales and marketing company. So essentially, what I do is I go into companies. I help them grow with sales strategies, marketing plans. I've got a real passion for social media. I do a bit of training around that as well. So actually connect with me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. You'll see me there. So my epiphany in that winter of 2015 was, how can I do more and how can I have fun along the way? I no longer had a leash around my neck. I had no timesheet to fill in. I had no targets to hit. My time was my own, and I could start passion projects with no one to answer to. And this was a passion project, the podcasting bit. Now, across 20 years, I predominantly worked in sales and in marketing. Excuse me. And I'd met some really inspirational people and learned so much along the way. Not just about business, but about culture. And I got a real passion for culture. I've been brought into organizations to help with that because it's really in vogue now, isn't it? Everyone's got to really feel happy and have good relationships at work and just ensure that all the teams are firing. So I'd learned a lot about culture, and the travel was often alone. So I was often on my own, jumping on planes, but it really changed me for the better. For example, I visited China. So I visited 3 major cities in China: Qingdao, Beijing, Shanghai. And when I was there, I almost got scammed in the streets of Shanghai. I lost a lot of weight because I'm a very fussy eater, but I did find a Subway, which was good. I got caught in the middle of a martial arts street fight. I witnessed a multi-car pileup just meters away from me. So I was on my own. It was like sink or swim, really, from a business point of view. I was taken to a business meeting that involved drinking heavily. So they filled me with the local spirits before they would even start talking about business, just to try and loosen me up, which was interesting. What else have I done? I was in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia and got attacked by a bunch of monkeys in a temple. I tried to take a photograph of them and they got a little bit leery. I got caught in a flood in Kuala Lumpur. In Dubai, I presented to some extremely powerful and influential people. So with all these experiences under my belt, like nothing really phases me now, apart from all you guys here at National Podcast Day watching. So what could I do? So getting back to 2015, I decided that I'd have a vision. I'd created lots of relationships, I'd had lots of experiences, but I wanted to do more and see more and meet more people. So how could I do that? How could I share with the world what I'd done? How could I expose people to new ideas, new ways of thinking? Well, you guessed it. It's the podcast. And I was excited. I was really excited to do it. And I did a lot of homework. I did a lot of research on the best way to do it. But actually, I was always not into podcasts. I was a big fan of books. So I remember giving myself a target. I'm always doing this. I gave myself a target to read the top 100 books as recognized by the BBC. Now, this was a bit of a task. Has anybody seen Moby Dick? It's like this thick. But I had great fun reading Orwell, Steinbeck, Tolkien, and so on. But man, Dostoevsky was intense. And those classics really bored me to tears. But I did find some wonderful books, some that have stayed with me now, such as Jack Kerouac's On the Road is one of my favorite books. So these classics, how could I get through them? Because it was painful. I just didn't enjoy them, but I wanted to hit the 100. So I decided that I could download the painful ones on MP3 and just listen to them whilst running or commuting. And I ended up commuting with the Bronte sisters. And after that dose of literary marvelment and reaching the century, so nailed all those top 100 books, I pushed on and listened to more books and listened to books that I wanted to read rather than just 100. But I also wanted to find books that really inspired me and were maybe around some subjects that hadn't been covered yet. Some real innovation, things like digital, social media, technology, AI, VR, whatever it was. So then I found podcasts. And my book consumption has fell off a cliff. If any of you guys host business podcasts, you might have people sending you books. I've got an absolute stack of books here that I haven't read. All right, don't tell them, but I haven't read them. I'd love to see the stats. Actually, can anyone tell me the stats in the chat room? The amount of the percentage of books that are bought but not read. It must be pretty high. So where was I? Yes, business books. Yeah, they fell off the shelf. I wasn't consuming them anymore. I was into podcasts. And I had the world at my fingertips. I could literally search for anything. I could brush up my business skills. I could hear the latest conspiracy theories. I'm a sucker for conspiracy theories, by the way. Aliens and, oh yeah, Area 51, all that caper. And I could listen to fans pulling apart my local football team, Sunderland. And I could just literally search for anything that I was interested in. And business-wise, I loved to hear people's stories. You know, we're humans. We learn from stories, and there's nothing better than an entrepreneur leaving the rat race, such as me, you know, blanking out and burning out and sticking two fingers up at the corporate world, leaving the big fight and coming out the other end with a great journey to share. I love that. And we've just been told in the chat room that I get the Kindle or audiobooks. Alexa reads them to me. Wow, that's good thinking, actually. I might look at that. Thanks. So I subscribe to the usual business shows, but after a while, they just weren't doing it for me. I heard a lot of buzzword bingo. I don't know if you guys have heard that term. It's something we use in the UK when you're in meetings and all you hear is buzzword bingo, like thinking outside the box, having thought showers, just really. So yeah, a lot of these business shows were talking a lot of corporate speak, and I just like to. I like wear my heart on my sleeve and just say it how it is. You know, we all put our jeans on one leg at a time, and sometimes in these business shows, they were just, I don't know, trying to become things that weren't. So just be you. And they were getting a bit samey. You know, can you tell me your top 5 business books? Can you tell me a time when you faced failure? I just knew that I knew what was coming, and I much preferred the indie style podcaster, a bit like ourselves, a bit like you guys in the chat room, or people who've just been on before. You're not selling out. You're not trying to growth hack it or pushing products. You're just being you. You're just trying to give value, and along the way, you give good value. It's like karma. You know, people start to listen, and people start to like what you're all about. So I bounced around a bit. I had my favorite shows, subscribed to quite a few, but then I thought there's a certain show that I want to hear, and it's not out there. And I thought, well, if it's not there, why don't you create it? Because I believe everyone's got a story, you know. Why can't we do it? Why can't you just start a podcast? So even the most diverse people, business, project people, they've always got a lesson to learn. And that was my inspiration. I wanted to share those journeys. I wanted to share people. I'd met many on my travels, so I had a nice little black book, and I just reached out and said, do me a favor. Remember that time you were telling me about the time the monkeys almost attacked you? Could you come on my podcast and talk about that? Well, I had loads of stories like that from people. So I just reached out to my network, and I just wanted them. I also wanted to speak to people that I hadn't spoken to before. I wanted to be very organic. So when I do a show now, I don't like to speak to them beforehand because I want it to be very natural. It's quite dangerous though, because you never know what's coming. And as a podcast host, you need to be quite reactive. But I just didn't want something that was the same format every week, you know, the same questions over and over again. I just wanted to chat. Now this has its challenges. You know, I can't be all things to all men. I get that. And I can't profess to know every subject. But I try and ask the questions that maybe listeners want to hear. You know, I don't believe there's anything like a stupid question. I just try to ask it, and hopefully my listeners kind of relate to that. So the show was born. That's what I wanted to do. I did it. I had a strategy to get into new and noteworthy. So if anybody's had a strategy for new and noteworthy, I'd like you to type it in the chat, because that seems to be the Shangri-La, doesn't it, as podcasters? I've got to get a new and noteworthy. And the charts in the UK aren't as busy, I would imagine, as some of the other kind of global iTunes charts. And so I entered very quickly into the business and the technology charts. And 3 years later, the show's still there. So new and noteworthy. I'm not sure how it works. It must be getting an overhaul soon. But yeah, 3 years later, I'm kind of still there, and I'm unsure if it's given me any merits at all. You know, but it has given me focus. Actually, it does. It is something like a KPI or a goal setting. You know, I kind of pick up my phone and check whether I'm still in the chart. So maybe it's a focus point. I don't know. It keeps up with consistency as well, doesn't it? You know, if you want to be in new and noteworthy, they say that you've got to be consistent, you know, putting out a show every week, you know, stop, you know, dropping out 2 or 3 weeks and then coming back to it. I like to be consistent every week. And that's tough, isn't it? For you guys who are running weekly shows, it's hard. And I know I feel it sometimes. The majority of my episodes are interviewing people. And sometimes I might just throw in a kind of random one with my sort of rambles, and they seem to be all right. People seem to resonate with them. So I think I might do a few more of those. But I was soon listened to by thousands in 100 countries, which is great. So if anybody has Libsyn, if you have Libsyn, let me know in the chat room. If you've got Libsyn, you're probably addicted to the stats. So if you are, tell me how many times you check your Libsyn stats a day, because I must be on there 5 or 6 times at least a day, seeing how many downloads I've had, seeing what countries that I'm listening to in. And it's fun, isn't it? It's interesting to know that you're heard in, I don't know, Ghana or something, just like, who is listening in Nicaragua? I don't know. Who is it? Tell me now. But it's kind of addictive, and my network grew incredibly. A lot of the guests that I had on were from across the pond, so they were in Canada and the States. And a lot of these guests are now called friends, So WeChat, I was on Blueberry too. It's very addictive. It's very addictive. And Steph's saying, I check my Podbean stats a few times a day, but can't do it 5 times because I have 3 podcasts and need to log out to switch right now. Yes, Steph, I feel your pain. But yeah, it is addictive. You're right. It is. But it's so exciting to see where these listeners come from, isn't it? You wouldn't imagine them listening to some guy in the northeast of England talking about business, but they do. So thanks for that. So yes, I was talking about my network, which is grew. And yes, good question, Jules. What are your numbers after 3 years? So I get about, let's have a look on a weekly show, maybe 500 people will download it initially within the first week. And then after that, it can probably go up to 3,000, something like that. It's interesting. Maybe someone can ask me this question. I like to wonder how many subscribers I have. And the way I do this is by releasing an episode, and I don't put it out on social media. So I don't put it out on Twitter. I don't put anything like on LinkedIn, a lot of synopsis. I don't put, thanks, Jules. I don't put it on Facebook. I'll just release it. And then I watch the numbers. And after 3 days, if there's, 200, 300, 400 people have downloaded it, they're subscribers for me. That's what I'm thinking. And then then I'll kind of release it on social, and people might see it on Twitter, for instance, and then click listen, and you might get another couple of hundred. So I don't know if anybody else does that. But yeah, I think that's quite an interesting thing to do. Steph's asking, do you have an email sublist, WhatsApp list? That's interesting. I don't have a WhatsApp list. Steph, tell me where you are based. I'll be interested to know. In the UK, we do use WhatsApp, but it's not used. Well, I don't use it for business as much. Email, yes. Of course, we've had GDPR over here, and I was hoping that I would get away with not talking about GDPR. And I won't mention Brexit either. GDPR has touched our email lists a little bit. But yeah, I've got an email list that's not too big. I would say it's probably about 200. What I like about that is that it's 200 quality subscribers. I guess I could grow it, but maybe the quality might not be as good. I get a lot of interaction. So if I send an email, people will respond. And if I ask a question, people will reply back. And I feel if I grew the email list, like a growth hacking style, and really pushed it, that maybe it wouldn't be as good feedback. And to be honest, I don't really sell products either. I don't push products, so I don't really feel like an email list would gain anything. It's more so just to keep in touch. Steph just saying there was a session on WhatsApp earlier, so I'm thinking about it. Steph, I'll have to have a look at that then. But you don't like Facebook, but you want a reminder tool. Facebook, again, it's an interesting one. Steph, tell me where you are. I'm in the UK. If Facebook for us over here, I don't think it's used as much as it is in the States. Again, I look at some podcasts in the States, and they've got many likes to their Facebook pages. And Steph, you're in Shanghai. You might have heard me talking about Shanghai earlier. That wasn't you who tried to beat me up in a martial arts street fight, was it? So yeah, we don't have as many likes than the States. But I still like it. I still put stuff on there. I think it's quite good for sharing events. Events is really good. Yes, you are caught, Steph. So, where was it? Did I have one more question on there? You're right, guys. There is the admins. There is no secret sauce. You're right. How does one get into the new and noteworthy? Well, I wanted to release about 4 or 5 episodes at once. That's what I kind of heard that would get me in there. And it was all about consistency for me. Just try to be consistent. So yeah. That's right. I'm just checking through the chat scroll. See if there's any more questions. Okay. So yes, I was kind of talking there a little bit about guests, wasn't I? Yes, guests. Well done, Ian. Guests and my network. And I would call these friends. There's a great video by Seth Godin, and he talks about all these people having vanity metrics and lots of followers and lots of Facebook friends, but actually when you drill into it, they're not many that are actually friends. So that's a good way of actually, for me, my strategy is to keep the numbers low, but actually have quality. And I kind of resonated with this video that I saw of Seth, because I do have friends that I've kind of never met, you know. But ultimately, 3 years down the line, I've met some. So some might be speakers and they might have come over to the UK to speak. Shout out to my friend Brian Fanzo. Brian came over recently to Newcastle Starter Week, and I got to meet Brian, who I'd had the show. And my show is called Industry Angel Jewel. Check it out, industryangel.com. I've got a book here, actually. So this book is written by a chap called Alexander Lauren. Alexander was one of the International Podcast Day speakers last year. Alexander's from Whitby, Ontario. Alexander and I, big shout out, Alexander, hope you're watching, have never met, for instance. But I'd call him a friend. And actually, interestingly enough, Alexander wrote the book on podcasting, and he reached out to me, and I was on a show a few times. I've been on his show. He talks about sales. It's a great show. Alexander reached out and he said, could I contribute to his book? Which I thought was amazing. Of course, I was delighted to. And the topic was around this topic that I'm talking to you about today, which is a global platform, but a local focus. And I'm going to get onto that shortly. And within this book is a section that I wrote, and it's pretty crazy, isn't it? That I've contributed to a guy's book that I've never met. But we've got these relationships now. This is what podcasting has done for us, isn't it? We're a community. The guys are putting on a fantastic event once again this year, and we're rallying around together. We're helping everybody together. It's amazing. It's provided a kind of gateway, hasn't it? Podcasting to the world. And I tell you, I love reading reviews. So we've talked about stats. Tell me if you ask for reviews. I'd love to hear what you're saying in the chat room about this. You probably hear the term, subscribe, rate, and review. It's a bit of a kind of, I think it's a bit overused. I feel a bit guilty asking for it. Like I'm begging, but reviews are good, aren't they? I think that must have an impact on you and noteworthy. So if you've got consistency and you've got lots of subscribers and people are reviewing your show, I think that must go towards it. So, it's also interesting to read reviews. I'm sure you guys know this, but if you go to iTunes and you change the country, you might see some reviews from a country that you hadn't saw before, because my iTunes is obviously set to the UK. And if I change that to Canada, for instance, I'll suddenly find 12 reviews that I didn't even know were there. So I'd love to be able to have reviews sent to me. I'm sure there's people out there who do it for a cost. Jules says, I ask for reviews at the end of my pod, but I don't think peeps listen to the outro much. That's a really good point, Jules. I tend to leave bloopers in, and I've been doing this lately. If I got any bloopers across the show, I'll put them at the end. So after my bumper music, after the outro, sometimes there's a blooper there, so that encourages people to keep listening. So Steph said, I used to ask for reviews, but when I switched to asking for feedback, I get emails, tweets, and Instagram messages now. I like this better, and I can read them out in the air. Steph, that's a really good point. You must have read or heard about the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. And in that book, you might hear that there's nothing sweeter sound than the sound of your name. So what Steph is saying there, that she likes to read out people's names, and I do that. I call it an angel shout out, and I've got a hashtag angel shout out. So if somebody messages me, I might message them back on, say, Twitter, and I'll put hashtag angel shout out, and then I can filter that the next week and see who I've messaged. And I'll give them a shout out on the show, and I'll mention what they've been up to. So I love that. So if you don't do that, maybe have a look at that. Yeah, I really recommend it. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to do 5 things at once. I'm reading your chat here as well. Steph saying, I paid for a podcast review and the skilled torch told me to say it, my email address out loud, because a lot of people don't read show notes. That's a good point. Yeah. So my email address is just host@industryangel.com. I do say that, but I like to be accessible. So I like to be on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, email, kind of anywhere where people want me to be. Although I'm not on Instagram so much, and I'm probably going to get my hand slapped off you guys now for this. But I always like to say, pick a platform and boss it. You can't be everywhere, and you can't be amazing at every kind of platform. So those are the ones I stick out. So you had a skilled coach told me to say email address. Yeah, it's interesting about the show notes that you say there, Steph. I don't read show notes either. I subscribe to quite a few podcasts, and the podcast I subscribe to, the hosts put a lot of time and effort into the show notes. And I don't know about you guys, but I kind of find I do that too. You know, I really beat myself up sometimes, and I create a web page for each episode, and I'm putting I'll summarize what we said. I'll put some bullet points about what we've kind of summarized across the session. And does anybody ever read it? Evidently not, Steph. So yeah, it's an interesting one, show notes, but I do them. What else do we have? Instagram gets lots of traffic, but I don't think it converts to listen. Jules, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know either. I guess I don't use Instagram. I'm trying to think of Twitter. On Twitter, sometimes this is a question for you guys. On Twitter, I link to the web page where the episode lives, hoping that people hit the website, so the website gets more hits. It encourages people to look around and see more episodes. Or the other way to do it is to embed the Libsyn media player on your Twitter. So when people are scrolling, they literally could click play and it would just start listening. Now, I imagine that you'd get more listens, people randomly scrolling through Twitter and just clicking play. But what I wouldn't imagine is you'd get people subscribing, because it's just a media player. So I like to push them to the website, hoping that they look around, like what they see, click subscribe, maybe subscribe to the email list, and see some of the podcast episodes that resonate. I'd love you guys to tell me what you think about that. Jules is saying that I just think on Instagram everyone likes and moves on. Yeah, I think so. Just a scroll of the thumb, Jules, just scrolling past. Nothing to see here, move along. Eileen, is it Eileen? I don't know how to say your name. I'm hopeless. But I loved your episode, by the way. It was amazing. Well done. I use the Libsyn contact page for emails and SpeakPipe for voicemail feedback. That's really interesting. I've just put SpeakPipe on my website this week. The free version, for anybody who doesn't know it, SpeakPipe, you can leave a voicemail. And it gives you, the free version gives you 20 voicemails a month. And each voicemail can be a maximum of 90 seconds. So I've just been asking for listeners to leave me some feedback on this particular episode. So yeah, I would take a look at SpeakPipe. I'm really impressed by it. And if I get lots, I might go to the paid version. We always put our website link on every post we put out there. Yeah, that's what I do as well. Thanks, Eileen. Thank you so much for making me look very silly. I apologize for not getting your name right. Yeah. That's I do put to my link on as well, but certainly look at SpeakPipe. I'm really enjoying it. So just getting back to getting back to kind of world domination, because that's what we want, isn't it? You know, on for podcasts, we're looking at the stats. That's where we were. We were looking at stats, weren't we? We were going crazy. We can't forget the network that we've grew closer to home. Okay, this is what I want to try and get across, and I think this is what Eileen was talking about as well. So let me explain. So I'm going to have a sip of my tea anyway. Tell me what you're drinking. I'm interested. LinkedIn for me is the #1 business to business social media platform. Okay. Now and again, I've got connections from all around the world, but in my local region here in the northeast of England, I have a lot of listeners. Okay. So every time I release an episode, I put a little kind of synopsis on LinkedIn. I'll tag the guest and encourage them to comment on that particular post. I'll talk numbers here. My posts on LinkedIn get about 5,000 views, and I'm quite happy with that. I'd love to hear if you have any. 5,000 views on the kind of LinkedIn synopsis, so it's worth doing for me. And I'll tag people in that might be interested to listen to that particular episode, as well as the guest. And with that, my LinkedIn network is quite strong regionally. And I think I've got a lot of local listeners that comment. So it's grown nicely in the region as well as global. So imagine like your region, I think Eileen was touching on this about kind of networking events. There's a lot of them about. Usually a speaker or a panel might talk about a particular subject. They might put some bacon sandwiches on if you're lucky, and a cup of tea or coffee, guys. And when I was attending these events, you know, people were approaching me and telling me that they enjoyed the show. So these were local people at local events saying they enjoyed the podcast, and it's really good. I love that. It's quite a nice warm feeling, isn't it? I actually I had a tweet the other day, and well done, Steph, got that coffee down here. I had a tweet the other day off a guy who I'd sat next to at an event, and he tweeted me his screenshotted his iPhone's subscribe list, and he tweeted me back saying, "My God, when you're sitting next to somebody that you subscribe to, and you know them from you know them from somewhere, but you can't work out just where, and you actually subscribe to my podcast." And I met him at an event, and it's amazing when you don't know actually who's out there listening to your podcast. So my network locally was building, it was strong, and I thought about a meetup. I thought about maybe bringing a guest on. They would often suggest guests to me when I meet them. So I thought, right, okay, they're obviously up for an idea. They're obviously interested in an event. Could I host a live event here in the region? I'd invite a guest to join me, be interviewed in front of the audience, and then the audio would subsequently be a podcast episode for the show. Now, I didn't think I could get enough bums on seats from the stand and start, so I decided that it could be arranged with a little help from local networks. So people like local agencies, chambers of commerce, partnerships, industry bodies, they're all tasked to collaborate and bring value to their memberships and their catchment area, of course. So membership managers are constantly planning the next event with a goal of bums on seats, excitement, doing things a little bit differently to the competition, thereby adding new members to their little tribe. Now, I had something different to draw the crowds. So I discussed this with the business team at my local council, and we identified a guest who was in the software space. So remember my old space, tech, and we created an event on Eventbrite, just like what Eileen was saying, and we call it Tech Talks, and we promoted it to my podcast email list and also the council's email list. Now their list was huge, and it worked well. Now let me just check this chat, because you guys are going crazy in this chat. Let me check what you're looking for before I continue my story. I always have water next to me. Well, I've got all sorts. I've got some water as well, Eileen, as well. Don't worry. Steph's drinking coffee, maybe green tea or ginger. I like green tea as well. Eileen's saying that she lets people know the voicemail could be on the show. Yeah, as I say, people love to hear the sound of their own voice, Eileen. People love to hear their name mentioned. So yeah, go for it. Right, where was I? So yes, an interview style show, working in partnership with the local council in a great live environment. And I'm really fortunate to live in this region where tech and innovation is kind of on the tip of everyone's tongue. And it provides me with a kind of inexhaustible supply of exciting business leaders to share with the world, really. So working with a local partner can provide you with a venue, in which the council had lots of business centres. They had the email list. They had a willing colleague to help arrange the deals. Local businesses will be interested in sponsorship opportunities. So if they can raise their banner, you know, those kind of pull-up banners, if they can put their banner on there with a brief introduction to the audience about who they are and what they do, maybe put their logo on the show notes, which never get read. But there's links in there that could go into your search engine optimization strategy. So people are open to sponsor. So recording the podcast live in front of an audience not only provides fans a chance to meet and interact with you, it allows you to win over new subscribers that enjoy the event. Gives you the opportunity to hand out giveaways. So just like, look at these cool things. Does everybody do these? This is my laptop sticker. People love stickers. I am a huge sticker fan. So actually, if you want a sticker, drop me a line. I'll send you one out. Don't worry about it. You can hand out stickers. Then they go on the back of people's laptops. Of course, they do presentations themselves. They pull up the laptop case. There's your thanks, Steph. Nice stickers. They pull up their laptop and they've got their sticker on the back. I've seen people put them on their notepads. It's and they're dead cheap. You know, they're really nice and cheap, but they're great. We don't have merch yet, but I think we will soon. And fancy some t-shirts. Do you think? Nora, you'll have to tell me how to say your name, please. But yeah, merch. I'll be interested. Tell me who's got merch. Okay. So your fans can meet you. You can give them stickers, talk about your business. You could ask for reviews. So you're meeting people. You can say, "Would you mind reviewing the show?" Take their iPhone off them if they're in there. Call me Nino. Okay, I'll call you Nino. Take the iPhone off them, okay? And literally leave a review. Get them to leave a review for your show there and then. Get them to press the subscribe button in front of you. Bully them into it. Pinch as many phones as you can, okay? And what's interesting is that your social media will blow up on the day of the event. You've got your unique hashtag. So I might go Industry Angel Live, and people in the audience will start sharing pictures and comments. So I've noticed an increase in followers and likes and shares from the downloads. So Jules is saying there she's got t-shirts, coffee cups, and stickers. Nicely done. Check you out, Jules. Nino says that she takes their phone and do it for them. So Nino, are you actually writing the review for them? I like it, cheeky. Following the live episode, what we do, we have an event with kind of beer and pizza, and we mingle with the attendees. We get feedback how it was. And I was extremely fortunate to have one of my listeners who's a photographer, and he's become a good friend. So shout out to Gavin. Gavin comes along to the event and he takes some amazing pictures. He's a really skilled photographer. And those photographs then go into like a Facebook album, and everyone can tag themselves if they're at the event, which is really good. We use them as promotional images across social media. And the photographer then gets kind of exposed to the audience as well. So he enjoys it. So we've got some great pictures. If you go to industryangel.com, you might see my Holden page is me at an event. And maybe my social media profile pictures can be great with these images. They look excellent. And they can really help like kind of add a bit of gravitas to your personal brand as well. So the technology we used initially for these events just went wild. We got really excited really quickly. So when I first did it, I was kind of, well, at the moment I record remotely. Okay, so I use this as an ATR 2100 or a Samsung Q2U, depending where you are in the world, plugged into my laptop, and I record using Zencastr. Big shout out to the Zencastr guys. And that's all I need. So I just need my laptop. But when the first time I recorded in person, I used my laptop and 2 mics plugged into this bad boy. This is a PreSonus audio box. It's a little bit bulky. We've got some little kind of knobs here that you turn. I have no idea what they do. Okay. Just adjusting stuff. I'm a total novice. And it was just a bit bulky. So what I decided was that I would purchase a Zoom H4n, and I just plugged the 2 mics into the bottom of that and capture the audio on an internal SD card. So with a couple of boom arms, the 2 mics plugged into the bottom of the Zoom, it works really well. And the investment was actually covered by a local company who I asked to sponsor the event, so it didn't cost me anything. I also decided at the first event that I'd go live on Facebook and Periscope on Twitter. So I purchased a small Rode mic and a tripod. So this bad boy here, I think this is an Arken tripod. I just plugged this Rode mic into my iPhone, and yeah, it worked okay, I guess. The audio and the visual wasn't the best. I just used that kind of fisheye lens on the iPhone to make sure I could get myself and the guest in shot. So this content's great for people who can't make it to the show. So we're going live on Facebook, and the event becomes documented. So from the first event, I literally had 2 offers, like immediately, to do more events, and the events are constantly growing each time. So the tech we use has really ramped up. So thanks to my friend Lee Hogan, shout out to you, sir. Jump onto industryangel.com and you can check it out. Some of my live ones, you'll see the footage is great because Lee is crazy. He literally brings 3 or 4 HD cameras all on tripods around the room. Kind of one's on me, one's on the guest, another one's on both of us, another one's on the crowd, capturing their reactions. And that goes through a kind of central hub, which streams across YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And then Lee controls it from his iPad, so he can kind of seamlessly flick from one camera to the other, depending on who's talking. And then the audio is just captured from the Zoom. It's just a line out from the Zoom, and the camera and the Zoom audio are perfectly in sync. And then during the podcast, the event, another friend of mine, Jack, he'll sit with a laptop and he'll monitor the feed on social. So in case any questions come in from listeners that are remote. And then once the event is over, we can then download the completed video file from one of the social channels. We can add some graphics to it. We can add the intro, outro, logos, our names on the bottom as we kind of come on stage. We can chop them up and use little segments for promo. Any bloopers, I love to share the bloopers on channels such as LinkedIn. It might be like a 1-minute blooper to show how fun the events are, to encourage people to attend. So following the evening, I just take the SD card out the Zoom, pop it into my laptop, and I use Audacity. And then that's the hard part, isn't it, guys? That's the hard part, editing all the ums and ahs. And I top and tail it with some music, and then that becomes that week's podcast. And I promote it with the photographs from the night that Gavin's took, point people to the social channels if they want to watch the video as well as the podcast. And I guess the downside for this is that if people watch the live stream, they might not listen to the podcast episode, might they? So that could affect listener numbers. But hey, listen, the pros massively outweigh the cons, Now, if you think about this, guys, this is pretty. Your editing, the editing is a favorite part, really. Wowzers! Good luck with that one. It's pretty daunting doing this because I'm interviewing someone I've never met about a subject I'm not up to speed about. I'm second guessing the response, what that person's going to say. I've got to react quickly. I've got to think of the next question. I'm watching the audio on Zoom on the floor, making sure the levels don't clip, and I'm watching the crowd, how they responded to the conversation. I'm over 3 social media channels going live. I take questions from the audience at the end, and I just got no idea what they could be. So yeah, it's pretty daunting. I do get nervous, but the like anything in life, the magic happens outside of your comfort zone, doesn't it? And I'd be lying if I didn't say I get nervous. I do. I get incredibly nervous, but the end product is amazing and it's well worth it. There are always issues on the night. Will people turn up? Will the bandwidth in the event be strong enough? Will it drop out? Will we forget to press submit to go live? Yes, we've done that. I forgot to press record on the Zoom once. We've muted the cameras from audio and had people on the social live saying, guys, I can't hear anything. One of my XLR cables didn't work once from the microphone. But we just got to go with it because I think live is just quite exciting and it's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? You just got to laugh about it and it just feels a bit gritty, and it makes for a great blooper reel. How many people do I get at live shows? Jules, the last one we had 75. 75 was a lovely number because we don't use speaker systems in there because it'll affect the feedback and the audio. So I like a room which is quite tight where we can get some questions from the listeners and also not have the need to use microphones and come out with speakers. So yeah, works really well. 75 is great. Thank you so much. Steph, it wasn't always 75, we grew 30, 40, 70, 60, it's just grew in time. So what I'm trying to do today then is I want to inspire you to create your own event. And I want to hear from you if this is something you're going to look at or organize. You can email me host@industryangel.com if you have any questions. Here are my top 10 tips then. Partner up with a membership organization that's got an email list and has a regular audience. Okay. They're desperate for good content. Look for sponsors, which can help with any initial technology outlay. They might provide refreshments, beer and pizza works well. Choose an awesome venue that will have great acoustics. It'll lend itself well to, like a nice seating arrangement. It has a small stage maybe that can elevate you. Ensure the venue has good bandwidth to be able to live stream the event. Create an Eventbrite, and promote that through social media. And then you've got your email list, your people who have kind of bought a ticket, although they're free. We always do ours free. And at least you've got an indication of who's going to turn up. And they'll get an email, won't they, if they're on Eventbrite, telling you that it's a reminder, it's going to happen. You could post snippets of your past live events as well as promo. Partner up with a photographer who's looking for case studies or looking for some good content. So we've got Gavin, who's amazing, and just captures some amazing stuff on the night. Ask for a student to volunteer. So we had Jack. Jack was a student at Sunderland University. Jack helps with the setup, and he's my runner for the night. He's my wingman. And giveaways. Sorry, I was reading the chat line as well. Giveaways, think about some merch, think about some of these stickers and things that you could give away. They work really well. Just got a question here. How difficult is it to maintain your focus on what the guest is saying at an event like that? It's very hard. It seems like it would be incredibly hard to keep that focus. Yeah, it's really tough. Do you know what it is, though? It really sharpens you. Obviously, I don't know what the guest's going to kind of say. It just keeps you very, very sharp. So yeah, it is. It's super hard. And to be honest, I don't know about you. Sometimes I just kind of, when you look out the window, sometimes you might be in a meeting, you just stare out the window. I actually do that when I'm staring at somebody, and I think, wow, what did they just say there? So yeah, it's at the end of the night, I am ready for a beer. I tell you, it is really hard to focus. And maybe you are as well, because we like drinking is your name. I've got a last couple of minutes before I've got to go. So have we got any questions on maybe the live events that I could go through? Someone did that with a Tascam. Yeah, I use it. I use a Zoom, but Tascams work well. Yeah, I actually take my my Zoom to any events. So if anybody goes to any networking events, or thanks, Jules, I'm glad you enjoyed them tips. If anybody goes to any networking events or seminars, I always have my Zoom with me, and I just put it in my little man bag. And if I might meet some speakers over coffee, I can literally whip it out and say, how did you find the conference? And then literally, I've got a podcast guest episode just out of the blue. So always keep your Zoom with you. That's another tip. I did say I'd give you 10, but I actually forgot how many I've gave you. But, we're live. This is how we roll, isn't it? Have you got any more questions from the chat room then before I've got to go? Got a couple of minutes more before our friends kick me off. Have you used getdialogue.am for your live shows? I haven't. Tell me more about that free circle. I've got no idea what that is. Nino, we struggle with building our social media followers. Does that matter? Our downloads keep rising, but social media followers are slow. I agree, Nino. Do you know what it is? There's lots of lurkers, isn't there? Don't get too disheartened if you don't hear back from people, or people don't tweet you or message you. There's an amazing amount of people who actually lurk and are listening to you. So I don't get too hung up about social media followers. It is what it is. Just creating great content and they'll come. Just keep creating great value. Give us as much great content as you can, and your social media followers will come. Steph, you're a great storyteller. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'd love you to listen to my podcast. And if you do, let me know what you think. Let me know what you change. I'm always asking people for feedback. Again, this is something you might want to do, and I'm sure you guys do this, is ask your fans, ask your listeners, what can I do? What do you need help with? Is there any questions I can answer for you? Any particular subjects you'd like me to cover? Any guests you'd like to get on the show? So, and here's our man ready to kick me off. That's the UK over and out. Am I right?
It's one of the drawbacks of what we're doing is that content is so great, and then it must come to an end so we can move on. But I got to tell you, everybody needs to give Ian a virtual applause for that. Very impromptu, from the heart, lessons learned, the fight back from the corporate world. I've been there. I think a lot of us have. And to be able to find your home in this world of a thing called podcasting is a wonderful thing.
Excellent. Well, I'd just like to thank everybody in the chat room as well, asking some awesome questions, and we've just shared some great content with each other. So this is what this community is all about, isn't it, Aaron?
It certainly is. And I want to thank you once again for representing your country, yourself, and the industry of podcasting. So I appreciate it, Ian. And we're actually going to fly off now to South Africa. So I appreciate you coming on and look forward to many more years of conversation with you.
Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the day, guys.